Hello and good evening. JC here from We Are Arsenal. And tonight we will be reacting and analysing Norwich versus Arsenal that finished with a 5-0 victory. And to help me break down the game, I'm joined by three very, very special guests, starting with John. How are we feeling, mate, after that performance?
Buzzing. It was a brilliant game, but we'll break that down later. I hope everyone's well. Anyone in the chat or watching on playback. And if you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at John Jordan 2021. Pleasure to be on.
Brilliant. All details for everyone down in the description below as per normal. Tony matey, how are we doing?
Absolutely fantastic, man. And I am so glad that for the very first time in quite a while, I didn't feel the need to have to wear adult diapers for one of our matches. I was pretty confident going straight into this one, so I figured we were gonna have a pretty good performance on this one, despite some of the changes that I kind of figured that might happen. But yeah, doing great, man. JC, thank you so much, man. Real privilege and honor to be back here again.
Always a pleasure. I'm glad to hear you're well too. And last but by no means least, we've got Neil. How are we doing, matey?
I'm good, my friend. I am good.
Enjoying the Christmas spirit.
Enjoying the Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone who's watching this on the playback or live. Hope everyone's family is good and safe. But yeah, man, great win today. Great win.
Well, look, we're all really looking forward to diving into this one. I think it's safe to say. And off the back of not only a win, but a big win like this, these shows are always made that much easier. So let's waste no more time at all and jump into the very first subject at hand, which is lineup. So, John, coming to you first, mate. When you saw the lineup announced before the game, what were your general thoughts with regards to who was selected?
I was happy with it because, as I said on the last stream, if Tomiyasu was anything less than 75%, because we presumed the Wolves game was going to go ahead, I didn't want to risk him. So for me, everything, the front four, I did say I'd be happy with Pepe coming in, but after Saka delivering today, it was the right choice from the manager. He got it spot on. And yeah, I was happy.
Brilliant. And Neil, what about yourself? Were you expecting, maybe a little bit more rotation, with no disrespect to Norwich, but they are sitting bottom of the league? You were on the preview show with myself and the rest of the boys. And we were all very, very respectful in the sense that we thought that we would beat Norwich comfortably today, and there could be the possibility of rotation. So were you expecting to see any other changes except Ben White coming in at right back and Holding coming in at centre back?
Actually, to be honest, no. And I'm happy that he went with this. I'm happy to see he's using Ben White's versatility. Benjamin White, sorry, in with his versatility. Yeah. I was happy to see this lineup. I wasn't too shocked with it. What did shock me was Rob Holding's hair. That thing gets me every time, bro. It gets me every time. But
we're only halfway through the season, and I think it's made the biggest comeback so far.
It has. It has. With Ben White moving out onto the right side there, and then Holding going in centre back, everything else was more or less expected.
Yeah. To be fair, in my opinion at least, what I want to happen and what I expect to happen are two very different things. And I'm sure you guys are exactly the same with those two opinions. And I just thought that maybe there might have been a few more changes for today's game with Wolves in mind, because they're the better team. They're not shipping many goals at the moment. And we'll get onto the Wolves situation later on in today's show. But coming to you finally, Tony, any surprises in there for you? Any other changes that you might have wanted? It's always easier to say no when you're looking back at a 5-0 win, isn't it?
Yeah, it always is, isn't it? Well, first of all, I got to say that I think Rob Holding's hair is going to have its own Twitter page pretty soon. So we're going to be looking for that. No, but really, honestly, I think a lot of Arsenal supporters around the world probably expecting that it was going to be a similar lineup to what we used against Sunderland. So really, I'm not that surprised that Arteta decided to go ahead and run with this particular formation. Actually, I'm kind of glad that he did, mostly because I was expecting that some of the players, our key starters, were going to be rested. So when he did bring out this lineup, I can't really say that I'm too surprised by it. The only one that had me just slightly worried would have been taking out Tamayasu, but to be honest, I think it actually turned out to be a really good decision at the end anyways.
Absolutely. Some would think that maybe even Cedric would have potentially featured there had he not have been diagnosed with COVID. I'm not too sure when he would have taken that test because he played against Sunderland, didn't he, at right back? So it wouldn't have been that far away really since the test was done. But yeah, as I said, looking back at the lineup after a convincing victory, it's always easy, to say wouldn't have made any change. When you get stuffed 5-0, when the shoe's on the other foot, you're sat here, you're like, well, I would have changed him for him and I would have played this system, I would have played that system. But yeah, looking back at a 5-0 victory, really, 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 really straightforward stuff. Coming back to you quickly, Tony, something that we've done in previous live shows and we haven't done so much recently, but with regards to the sort of the general shape of Arsenal today, the general sort of system and tactics that we implemented, were there any takeaways for you that you quite liked?
It's been really, really similar, to be honest, our style of play as it has been for about the 3 past matches, I think. This one did have somewhat of a slower tempo, but I think the primary reason was because since this isn't exactly Arteta's normal squad that he would use against the tougher sides in the Premier League, they're sort of erring a little bit more on the side of caution. You can tell that a lot of the attacks when they were going forward, they felt more like probing sort of attacks as they were going forward. Despite that, though, it actually really felt very similar to most of the other games. The big difference is that we actually gave a proper walloping this time to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about yourself there, Neil? Anything that you saw from today in terms of the system or tactics implemented by Arteta that really kind of excited you? Because these are the games that you want to be winning convincingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very true in what you're saying there. These are the types of games, even though it's away from home, we want to go there and win convincingly, and we did. I mean, keeping a clean sheet at that ground as well, I think is no small feat. And Norwich is a pretty good team. They always come up, shows their strengths. But in terms of surprises, I thought, based on when I saw the lineup, I thought, like we were talking in the chat earlier, we were going to go with like a 3-4-3 or what you suggested, Jake, which was a 3-5-2. But it seemed as if we went with a straightforward 4-2-3-1, and it seems to be Arteta's now go-to system. It seemed to have like a really strong bond in terms of where the players position themselves, their awareness with each other and everything. So I'm happy to see that this system is starting to flourish, because even though it's Norwich, they're bottom of the table, they have nothing to lose, and they could have given us a real run for our money today. But it showed that the system is working, and what he's trying to implement is starting to flourish, and that result of a 5-0 win is pretty much evidence of that.
Absolutely, and there's some really good things that you said there, actually, because when we look back at when we played Newcastle, I know it was off the back of a bad result, but Newcastle at the time when we played them were towards the bottom end of the league. They weren't playing very good football. And you could say that, especially some of the newer players, they were still getting used to this system and the tactics that Arteta wants these players to use, the instructions, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And it's now starting, as you said, to really kind of come through and show in these performances that the boys are now used to not only the system, they understand each other's roles as well. And that's now being reflected in some of these results. What about yourself, Jordan? Anything from today, apart from what the boys have already mentioned, that really did excite you? Or maybe when we were occasionally leaking the odd counter-attack, anything that might have concerned you?
Well, what I've liked from recent games, since the Everton game, we've been more ruthless up front. We're getting goals more. From the Everton, and not only that, when we take the lead, unlike the Everton game, we're not sitting back, we're going forward. What I liked today was the rough moments. We weren't backing down from the rough moments. The players were up from it when there was tackles going in and they were giving it back. So that's what I like to see. The manager, like I've said, I've said about Arteta, like I want him to do well, but I have to give him huge credit because he's changing a lot around in this back in the changing room. He's changing a lot with the players' mind and mentality, and he's definitely definitely deserves a lot of praise.
Can
Absolutely
I add
spot on with the culture thing there. The culture around the club, the mentality, individual characters within the squad where they're sort of sticking up for one another. Neil, it looked like you were about to say something then. Sorry.
Yeah, mate. I just wanted to add to that. He, like, if it's one thing, and I know I am Arteta out. I don't see him taking us to winning the titles that we want to win. However, you have to give him credit where it's coming to the point of he's actually implemented some steel into this team. Even Saka today, I saw him put a tackle on Williams today, and he walked up like, like understand who we are. And he's on loan there from us. Arsenal is your parent club. Show some respect.
And the most important thing, what we're seeing now, is a consistent lineup.
Yes.
Under Emery, there was no consistent lineup. He was changing formations every week. He was changing. There was players in, players out. Now we're seeing we can almost pick the starting 11 ourselves, and that's, if you look at Liverpool week in, week out, fans can do the same. So we're seeing consistency in the lineup, which will evolve the consistency in the performances.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I think there were maybe parts of what Arteta tried to do when he first came to Arsenal that was too similar to Pep, but we have to appreciate that Pep and his City team have effectively got two teams. So he's in a really, really luxurious position where he can switch and change when someone's not fit or someone's not performing.
He was coming into a club with weak players, even weak fans. Yeah.
So it absolutely spot on to maybe go down that route of maybe more of a Liverpool mold, where you are picked in that sort of consistent 11 players each and every week. Unless your hand is forced, obviously there are going to be suspensions, there are going to be injuries, some things that are completely out of our control. But to have maybe that sort of same group of 14
like
or 15
players,
then we're absolutely in a very, very good place. Just before we jump into the next section, we've got a good handful of people watching the show. Do get some questions in the chat. Myself and the panel will answer the best we can during and between slides. And if you haven't done so
like
already,
as well, people,
do hit that like button and subscribe, as Neil just said. Do not forget, hit that subscribe button. Don't even think about it. Get it done. And we're now about to jump into what I call the meat and potatoes of the stream, where we're going to break down today's game. Starting off with a nice, easy one for you, John. I think we can all comfortably say that we were very happy with the start that Arsenal had today. Straight off the mark, within 5 minutes, Arsenal managed to bag themselves a goal. It came from a high press on the left-hand side through Martinelli and Kieran Tierney. And then the ball went from left to right. Martin Odegaard sees Saka in bundles of space. We all know that Saka prefers to then cut in on his left foot before slotting it home. So really nice goal. Arsenal have managed to get a few goals now from the high press in the last couple of months. What were your sort of general thoughts on this first goal today?
It's everything Arteta wants. He wants work and he wants press and get the ball, move it quick, get it across the field as quick as you can and take a shot. And he'd be pleased with the first goal. And as you said, it's not the first time we've seen this, but that's the way he wants to play. You can't walk around. He'll take you out of the team. You have to press, work as a team and get your shot away. And it was a brilliant goal, brilliant finish.
Really, really good finish. And there's even been some murmurings recently. I don't know how much you guys sort of follow certain people on social media, but just generally, even pundits have said that, Saka needs to start adding more goals to his game. He's done that today. He's managed to get himself 2 goals, which is fantastic to see. Coming to you next, Neil, on another incident in the game. And it feels like to me at least, it feels like we're talking about it every week now. But in the 38th minute, there was an incident where Martinelli was down in the middle of the pitch. Arsenal players wanted the ball to be kicked out. It wasn't kicked out. When it eventually did go out of play through natural play, Xhaka being Xhaka was the first one there, forefront of the line, kicking off, gets booked. As we've said in previous weeks, he's a senior player. He should be leading by example. What were your general thoughts on this scenario? Because literally, I think 2 minutes later, a similar sort of situation unfolded, and a Norwich player got booked for trying to square up to Ben White. But why does it always end up being Granit Xhaka?
You know what I think it is, and you all know my thoughts and opinions on Granit Xhaka. I think he wears a red card cologne. He's flirting. He likes to flirt with it a lot. He really likes to push it. But at the same time, I see no one else on the team that's standing up for his teammates like Granit Xhaka did. And it comes to the risk of him having that target on his back by a lot of referees, especially Graham Scott. He's sent him off a couple of times before.
Against Burnley.
Yes. Yeah. But I would say that incident with Martinelli is actually the referee's fault. And why I say that is because he had a pretty good position in seeing what actually took place. You could see it on the replays. Yeah. Even the officials on the sidelines, they are the ones, they are all responsible there to protect the welfare of these players. And those type of bad calls is what escalates the temperature on the pitch. Granit Xhaka, we all know he has a very short fuse and he's not going to stand for it. So, and they can't get in the referee's face as they would want to. So what's going to happen? He's going to go to the next player's face and try to rile him up. So even with the Ben White situation as well, the referee didn't intervene in the way that he should have.
Yeah.
I think this one comes down. I'm going to take the heat off of Granit Xhaka a little bit, and I'm going to point it to the referees. They need to have more better game management when it comes to situations like this.
Yeah, just take control of the game a little better.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, well said. Well, funnily enough, it was shortly after those two incidents between Granit Xhaka and Martinelli being down, and then the Ben White situation that I've just mentioned. It seemed to really kind of fire the game up. The game really opened up for that matter. Really spicy tackles going in, which is what Arsenal and opposing fans like to see in the game. Gets the fans going. But at that point in the game, I thought it was really, really important that Arsenal got the next goal, because had it have gone Norwich's way with them being at home, I think that second half would have been a completely different half of football. Thankfully, it went the way of Arsenal. It was a great diagonal pass, about a good 20 yards from Martin Odegaard, found Kieran Tierney bombing down that left-hand side into loads and loads of space, took a couple of touches, and then a low-driven shot buried in that bottom far corner. Really, really nice to see Kieran Tierney get on the score sheet, because he really does wear his heart on his sleeve. What did you make of this goal, Tony?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. To be honest, I was actually a little bit shocked at how quickly his pace was to get to exactly where he was at the right time when he needed to be there. And the way that he came up, I think we did notice, at least in this particular match, that we did have quite the tendency for a lot of attacks through the left side, which it's pretty reflective on the heat map as well. But the way that he was up so very quickly, it completely caught me off guard, his speed on that one. But I really am glad for him specifically, because he's been working for it for quite a while now. So when that one went in, I was just completely happy for him.
Yeah, I was absolutely over the moon. And it's quite funny as well, because when we look at Kieran Tierney and some of the criticism that he was facing when Tavares was in the side, when he came back fit, a lot of people were basically asking questions of Kieran Tierney and whether or not he should be in this Arsenal team moving forwards. And since then, I think he's managed to bag himself 2 or 3 assists and himself a goal. So he's really, really justifying why he should be playing at left back. And he was one of our best players last season, Mr. Reliable at times. Coming back to you, Neil, I just want your sort of general thoughts on a statistic that was posted by Arsenal at half-time. Bukayo Saka, and this was before his second goal, after his first, Bukayo Saka is now the second youngest Arsenal player to reach 10 Premier League goals at the age of 20 years old and 112 days, behind Nicolas Anelka, who done it at the age of 19 and 225 days. Now, Nicolas Anelka went on to win countless titles for various different clubs at club and international level. So what should we be reading into this too much, or should we just be a little bit more reserved? What are your thoughts on such a statistic?
The future is something that no one can foretell. We don't know what next week's performance from Bukayo Saka is going to look like. But with statistics like that, you have to really start getting a little bit excited. Nicolas Anelka was, if I were a defender, Nicolas Anelka coming at you might as well just move aside.
Yeah.
And rightly so. He has the accolades to back his performance, and I think it's time to get excited for time to get excited for Bukayo Saka. Stop it being this reserved type of way, and we need to be cautious. No, be excited. You guys doing great stuff.
You sound like Josh Kroenke with your "be excited."
Hold on.
And you know what? It's really funny because when you look at some of the criticism that Saka's had of late about not scoring goals or not scoring enough goals in an Arsenal shirt, and then to be credited with a stat like that, knowing what Anelka went on to do, I think people need to just get off his back a little bit. I know he is star boy, isn't he? Star boy for Arsenal. So people just need to lay off of him a little bit. Before we jump into the second half, John, there's just one last thing I wanted to run past you, because I felt like in the second half, it wasn't something that we did as much. The game was more end to end, which we'll touch on in just a moment. But one thing that I really did like from the first half, and I don't know if you guys on the panel agree, but John, I felt like we really pressed the ball well today. There were occasions in the game where we went through sort of 5 to 10 minute spells where when we lost the ball, we regained it really, really, really quickly. In certain scenarios, it reminded me of Man City, where within 5 to 7 seconds, they've got that ball back, regardless of where they are on the pitch. We didn't do it for 90 minutes, but there were spells where it looked a little bit similar, but mainly in the first half. Did you catch this? Did you see this side of Arsenal in the first half?
We've noticed it in recent games, but the problem before, when Aubameyang was up front, I used to think Aubameyang would press, but he wouldn't press when the rest of the team. When you're pressing, you have to press as a team. Certain players have to press, because if you don't do it as a team, you'll get one player get dragged down, it leaves space, and then you're in trouble. But what we're starting to see now is the front four, the two holding midfielders will stay, and the front four will just keep going across the field, pressing and pressing. And then when we win it, you win the ball up high, and then you have your players out wide, and you've Lacazette up front that will cause problems. But we're definitely pressing lately as a team, and in order for it to work, you have to press as a team.
Yeah, you do. You have to do it as a unit.
We won't be able to do it for 90 minutes yet, of course, because this is all new. I know Mikel's been in the job a while, but we're starting to see consistent performances, consistent starting 11s, and consistent pressing in certain stages of the game.
Yeah, it's all down to game management at the moment.
It is.
I think, like you said, the lads aren't necessarily used to it. There's a few players coming into the side this season where they've not played in the Premier League before. They're not maybe used to that type of football, so it is going to take time, but it's nice to see that potentially it's the direction that we're moving in. Liverpool do a very, very sort of similar thing. The new
as a team is most important. Yeah, most important. It has to be a team.
It has to be a team, and it's all about where you win that ball as well. There's been a few examples in recent weeks, like you said, where we have won that ball high up the pitch. Today's first goal, as an example, it's paid off, and it then sets the tone for the remainder of the game, which is really, really nice to see. So we've got Keith in the chat for anyone that has missed it. Really, really gutted that he's not joining us this evening. Thank you very much for joining in the chat. And then we've got Mikel as well. Amazing performance today. Can't wait for the North London derby on January 16th. Absolutely huge game in the grand scheme of things. We've got some January in general. There are some massive games for Arsenal, both at league and cup level. So fitnet level, absolutely. They're much better than when they first started. Much, 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 much better, as John said. And well, if Keith asks, you do it. You get it done. So get subscribed and drop a like, people. Yes. Don't waste any more time. So moving into the second half, coming to you, Tony, with the first sort of question or sharing your opinion. The first sort of 20 minutes of the first half was a bit of a weird one for me, because we were 2-0 up, and I thought we really kind of set the tone of the game at this point. However, if there was going to be another goal in this game, at 2-0, whoever scores that next goal, it could be absolutely huge, especially if it's Norwich scoring that goal at home with potentially momentum in their favour. So in that 20 minutes, we saw Kieran Tierney with an early chance. We had that little scuffle between Saka and Williams that Neil mentioned earlier on, where one of the commentators said there was a bit of a stamp. We had VAR review 2 incidences where Lacazette potentially pulled someone down in the box, and then Martinelli's high foot. We had Martinelli, goal offside. All of this happened in the space of the first 20 minutes of the second half. Really, really end-to-end stuff. My heart was going a million miles an hour. What did you make of that sort of first 20 minutes?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those ones where, again, I said that I probably should have had my adult diapers ready. Initially, it was kind of, I was expecting that we were going to go and start pressing from the get-go and be very aggressive with it. So when we kind of started doing this, kind of a slower tempo, not really pressing as hard as we were during the first half, I was just slightly worried that maybe Mikel Arteta was going to go ahead and try to do the old park the bus routine, where he's going to try to sort of basically make the fortress and try to batten down the hatches. Again, I don't like that tactic at all, because even though it is a 2, we've got the 2-goal lead at this particular time, it can disappear so quickly within a matter of minutes. So I'm not a fan of it, but at the same time, it's like, what do you do from this point on? But yeah, there was quite a bit. Our tempo was a bit on the slower side, but after that third goal, everything just started to pick up, and then we got what I like to see. That's that sort of Arteta ball, combined in with that killer instinct and that ruthless mentality that I know we've been really building up on over the past couple of games, and you can notice it because the mentality of the current squad has changed considerably. There's a certain it's a ferocity, I suppose you could say it is.
Yeah.
Amongst the players now, and they're really hungry, and you can notice it. So once that first sluggish 20-25 minutes actually stopped, and we started getting back into high gear, it was beautiful football to see.
It was a really, really sort of nervy first 20 minutes. And yeah, it had a little bit of everything, didn't it, in there? You didn't really know which way it was going to go. Fortunately, coming to you next, Neil, it did end in the way of Arsenal getting the goal after the Martinelli goal was disallowed. This one a little bit different to the others. I would say that it was more Saka's making. The ball went from the left-hand side. I think it was a throw-in it started with, and it made its way all the way over to the right-hand side. Saka picking up the ball just outside the box, and he was twisting and he was turning. He got the ball out of his feet, and then he's whacked it from about 18, 20-odd yards. It's nestled in the bottom corner. Second goal for Saka in the game. Third for Arsenal. How vital was it for Arsenal to score at this point in the game? But also, what did you make of the goal itself?
I think it was extremely, extremely important for that goal to come at that point in time, because Norwich had kind of grown into the game somewhat. You saw it through the tackles, because you have to be a bit confident to be playing like that as a home team, even though they were 2-0 down. And coming out of where that goal came from outside the 18, I think it was a piece of class by Bukayo Saka. The way he just pocketed that ball into the corner like that. Like I was looking at Saka during the game today, and I found that I saw like a Raheem Sterling type of player in him, where he was going at it. He was using his pace. He was being brave. He was using his trickery. So, I think the goal happened in the nick of time, and the finish of it was just class, absolute class by Bukayo.
Absolutely well deserved. Very, very much well deserved. Coming to you next, John, with regards to what happened between the 2 goals. Going back to this slide very, very quickly, Arteta has been criticised in the past quite a bit for not only the types of substitutions that he makes, but also when he makes those substitutions. Today, he made 3 between the third and the fourth goal. And even though Arsenal were 3-0 up and quite comfortable at this point, it didn't stop Norwich from coming at us and trying to cause problems. My question to you is, what did you make of the substitutes in the sense of Arteta's game management today? And you've got all 3 there and the different times that those substitutions were made.
Yeah, I think the Thomas Partey one was fair because we know his injury history, you know, playing back, he's playing a lot of games lately. So I think that one was right. Pepe coming on, it was well deserved for midweek. For me, I wanted him to start, but he justified not starting him today. Saka scored 2 goals, world class. And then the third one, Smith Rowe, again, competition for Odegaard, and he scored again. So I think the subs were right because he was looking to the game on Tuesday because we weren't to know it was going to get cancelled. No. It was the right time in the game. We had the third goal at that stage as well, didn't we? Well, it was game done by then, so it was the right thing to do. Man management, get your Saka's a key player, of course, and Partey's key in the midfield. With Laconga, he was back on the bench, but we don't know what his fitness is like. So
we don't know what his fitness is like, actually. No. And if we take ourselves back to last season, I think Gabriel won 3 Player of the Month awards for Arsenal, got COVID,
and he was shocking after
2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months afterwards to really kind of get back to where he was. So we can't really comment on how fit or where these players are mentally after contracting COVID, unfortunately. But coming back to you with the final question for the breakdown of today's game, 91st minute, Emil Smith-Rowe, the cheeky little boy that he is, with I don't know if anyone else clocked it. I didn't see it until the replays, but he did a no-look pass. He looked this way.
And he gave it into Laca,
into Lacazette. So fair play to him. The confidence on the lad to be able to do that. We were comfortable at this point, of course, but he pings the ball into Lacazette. Lacazette, really, really intelligent. It's not the first time that he's done this. I think it was Aston Villa where we got the penalty at halftime after the halftime whistle was blown. Because he got his foot between the ball and the player. Very, very similar today. Did you think it was a penalty?
I did. I've seen penalties given for less.
Yeah.
And since it's Arsenal, for me, it's a pen. I've seen, I don't follow any Norwich fans, but I didn't see much complaints about it. The commentators I was listening to, whatever link I was using, they said it wasn't a penalty. They seemed it was a bit harsh, but Lacazette, he got in front of him, and just as he was moving to the side, he took him down. He didn't win the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was it's a hard one not to give.
Yeah,
as parents is duty to attend, be back on his.
And you can't go to VAR because you can only go to VAR if it's like a major mistake, like major error from the ref. So he had to stick to his decision. And Lacazette deserved the goal, fully deserved it. It's been coming for weeks.
Well, hopefully he can kick on now because we've spoken about it in previous shows where we think it will take maybe a couple of goals for him now to really kind of kick on.
But even when he doesn't score, though, he doesn't look, he doesn't let his head drop. He's so unselfish.
There are other parts of his game where he offers the team different things
compared
to Aubameyang, which we've spoken about previously.
Yeah, he's old news.
Yeah, exactly. A couple more questions, actually, before we finish up on this section. Coming to you next, Tony, on this question. When we look at the match stats today, there was one thing that I really liked. There have been previous weeks where Arsenal have played and had 20 to 25 shots on goal, whether it's off or on target, sometimes less possession. What I really liked about today is it seems like we've created less, but what we have created is far better quality, far more clear-cut chances. We're looking at the stats there. Anything that excites you? Anything that really kind of gets you going, or any sort of concerns maybe?
What I do like, and this is kind of, I know that, again, no disrespect to Norwich, but one of the things that I really like to see is the higher percentage rate in the possession. Now, I know that we have a much higher one here against Norwich, and again, that was kind of to be expected. But against some of the other bigger clubs, especially the top 4, top 5 sides, the possession that we have tends to drop. And if it doesn't drop, even if it stays at about roughly the same as the opposing side, unfortunately, the chances that we create and the quality just tends to be very low, which really harms our ability to actually create chances, which would then lead to the goal scoring. And this particular one, the possession was much higher, obviously, but this is something that I would like to see more of a consistency thing. Again, as we start going against the larger clubs such as City, Chelsea, and all those. I think a lot of this has to do possibly, and I don't want to start nothing, but possibly with our players actually getting more of a break or more of a chance to prove themselves at the front. Maybe because of a certain absence of a certain other player. I don't want to say anything, but it is possible. It's possible.
It's very, very, very possible, and I think to kind of second what you're saying, that it's no coincidence that the certain unnamed player mentioned, since his absence, there's been an upturn and change in performance overall throughout the team, including the amount of goals that we're scoring. As I've mentioned in the thumbnail, we've scored 14 goals now in our last 3 games. I appreciate one of those was against Sunderland, but nevertheless, still 9 goals in our last 2 Premier League games, which is nothing to be scoffed at, to say the very least. Neil, coming to you finally before we move on to having a little bit of fun, as we like to do on this show. Looking at the heat map there, looking at the average positional of the players, that forward line there, it looks like it should be a back 5 or back 6, but it's actually Arsenal's attacking line, funnily enough, which is crazy when you think about it. And when I was creating these slides prior to the show, last week's slide was very, very similar as well in terms of our last game. So what can we take from this? What do you take from the information there? I'm
kind of confused as to the deep orange in that position there. What I'm taking away from this is the fact that it looks as if a lot of our play is beginning from that position, from that right hand side. Yeah, and we're probably winning a lot of the ball in that position as well. But and then just a testament to what happened today with those 5 goals. It really came from a string of passes that came together quite beautifully. And I'm surprised we haven't touched on Martin Odegaard yet. I'm really flabbergasted. Yeah, but that's what I'm getting from this. You know, a lot of our plays beginning from that right hand side, and probably getting crossed across the field, which ends up in the position of Martinelli and Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like about the positional map especially is I think the opening part of the season when Kieran Tierney did play, he was actually slightly further back in our final third. And in recent games, he seems to be much more in that position that he was last season. And I don't know if that's maybe Gabriel Martinelli bringing out the better of him. They seem to be building a really, really, really nice relationship on that left-hand side. But something that Keith's mentioned in previous weeks as well, it always seems as though now our 2 wingers are more inside forwards and seem to be the furthest forward now, more so than the actual striker or centre forward, which I don't think would have meant the unnamed man. It doesn't suit him. You know, when you look at the way Liverpool play with a very sort of similar number 9, if you want, similar to the way Lacazette offers.
Like Firmino.
Yeah, exactly that indeed. So some really, really, really big positives coming from this. But the one thing that I want to see is it's all well and good us sitting here and getting excited off the back of a 5-0 win against the Norwich, a 2-0 win against Newcastle when we've done it. We've got to start seeing it now against some of the better teams. We've got Man City next, so we'll see how it pans out. We've got them at the Emirates. The atmosphere this season has been exceptional. So really, really, really interested to see how this system works, if Arteta goes with it or if he changes his mind to maybe a different system.
I hope not. I really hope not. So, I really, really hope not.
Anyway, we're going to play a little bit of a game now, something that we introduced onto the live show during our last show, actually. We've got 3 players on screen with some stats from today's game, accompanied by a heat map, player 1, 2, and 3. Get your comments in now on who you think the players are, because as I'm asking this, the panelists are studying and analysing this information, because I'm about to ask them who they think they are, and then we'll finish it off by talking about each of these players. It could be a player that's played really well today. It could be a player that's played horribly, horribly bad today as well. John, coming to you first, my friend. Picture number 1. Now, during our last live show, I probably gave away a little bit too much information. So it's probably a bit too easy for people to guess who the players were. So I've put a little question mark next to some of the obvious information had I have included it. We've got a player here who looks like he's played predominantly on the right-hand side with a 79% pass completion rate, 2 key passes today, 1 out of 1 successful dribbles, and he was successful in 3 of his duels. Who is this player?
I'm going to go Bukayo Saka.
Neil?
Yeah, I'll go with Saka.
And finally, Tony.
Yeah, I was thinking either between Saka or Tierney, but you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Bukayo Saka on this one too.
Bukayo Saka. The answer is Bukayo Saka. So all of the panel got this one right. So well done to the lads. He managed to bag himself 2 goals today. Tony, coming to you first. Generally speaking, I know we've kind of touched on some of the goals that he scored today, the record that he now holds at Arsenal. But sort of generally speaking, with regards to his performance today, what did you like? What didn't you like? General overall opinion of him today?
Yeah, there really wasn't a whole lot to dislike about this performance today. Again, I've been a huge fanboy of his since he actually started real. Not just because of the skill which he does have, but because of his constant work ethic. He puts so much. He puts his entire heart and soul into this, and it's phenomenal to see it.
He was, and that's what I love about him the most. Is when you say heart and soul, he's Arsenal through and through. He knows what it means to wear the shirt. It's that DNA. He's got the DNA. Let's make sure we keep him long term. Neil, what did you make of his general performance today? Good and bad.
It's hard to come on here and find something bad about this guy's performance today, man. I'll have to be honest. But in terms of his overall performance today, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy to see him adding goals to his game now, because it's really what was just missing. You know, his whole take on version of the game and all of that is great. Energy he brings, the desire and everything. Now to have the goals is just to see him grow now from that and become Nicolas Anelka.
Please. Before I come to John to ask him his opinion of Bukayo Saka, get your answers in now for picture number 2. Get them down in the chat before I come back to the panel on who they think it is. John, what did you make of Bukayo Saka's performance today, good or bad?
Sensational again. And as Neil said, what we wanted to see, the same with Smith Rowe, was adding goals to the game. And that's what he's doing now. And not only that, like he's not the tallest or strongest, like he doesn't look the strongest, but when he has the ball, he'll hold off 2 or 3 defenders and wiggle around them. No problem. He wasn't my man of the match. We'll touch on that later, but he was brilliant again. Give him a lifetime contract. Give him what he wants. Build a team around him. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's it. If Arsenal can build a successful team, someone like Bukayo Saka and Emile Smith Rowe, as you mentioned as well, those types of players, having come through the ranks at Arsenal, wearing their hearts on their sleeves, they will stay at the club. They will stay at the club. So we've got to make sure we move in the right direction. So picture number 2, as I came to John last time, I'm going to come to Tony this time. Who do you think picture number 2 is? We've got a passing success rate of 80, 3 crosses, 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, and 8 successful duels out of 12, predominantly playing on the left-hand side.
Yeah, predominantly. I think I was probably reading this a little bit inverted. I think
I see what you mean.
As the left. Yeah, and this would actually make sense. So to me, I'm gonna go with this was Kieran Tierney.
And Neil.
Yeah, I think that's Tierney. I want to believe
finally,
it's Tierney.
John.
Yeah, it should be the future captain of this club, Tierney.
Oof. It should be. It should be.
Should be.
And you're absolutely spot on. So the panel so far this evening have got 2 out of 2 right. So someone that we haven't talked about.
I completely read that completely the exact opposite.
It's all part of the fun. It's all part of the fun.
Yeah. I thought it was actually because I don't know. I guess the way that I'm seeing it is top and bottom here.
Yeah.
So I thought that the top that I was looking at it forward. So I thought that was the left and the bottom was the right. Yeah, there you go. No,
you got it right. You got it right.
That
That's
makes
all that
sense.
matters. You got it right. So,
yeah.
But yeah, as I said, Kieran Tierney isn't someone that we've spoken about too much today. Generally, with regards to what he's done, we mentioned his goal a little bit earlier on today, but his overall general performance. What did you make of that today, Tony?
Again, it's a brilliant performance, and like I said, that one particular goal, it caught me so completely off guard because it wasn't that I didn't see it coming. It was the speed with which he moved. It was like lightning to see him the way that it was. Not only that, but also, and I know again, goal scoring isn't exactly his forte, but again, it's the contribution that he was making to the squad as a whole and his work ethic as well. Very similar to Bukayo Saka. It just continues to show us why Arteta is putting so much faith in all the youngsters in the squad, and it's really starting to pay off because we see that they want to play for him. They want to play for the badge, for the supporters, and they want to play for each other when they're on the pitch. So it's a beautiful thing to see.
It really, really is. And one thing that is a slight shame, not in a negative, because it's credit to Kieran Tierney, coming to you on this one, Neil, is there were 3 really delicious crosses that he made today. And, you know, Lacazette has never been that type of player where he's going to get on the end of the ball with his head. Neither is Bukayo Saka, for that matter. Realistically, we don't see him sort of bursting in at the back post that often and scoring those types of goals. So it really does make you think how many more goals we could score if we had the right type of striker. But that was one of many positives, barring his goal today. Were there any others that you took from today's performance?
Yeah, man. It's just his goal today is going to give him complete justification as to why he should be starting in front of Nuno Tavares. I was thinking about it today when he scored that goal, and then immediately my mind was like, if that was Nuno Tavares, chances are the ball would be in Keith's backyard. So no, and it's the truth, right? So
it is the truth.
So
I can't remember which game it is now, but there was one game where you mentioned there was about 3 or 4, maybe 5 chances that.
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, and you know, so with Kieran Tierney, he brings, and I think you have to have a certain level of composure in your game in order to make those type of shots and keep it low and know how to position yourself. Nuno Tavares, he is a really good player. He's an exciting player to look at, and I've said it before. I really want to see him score, but he needs to take a page out of Kieran Tierney's book and look into what he's doing. Look at how he's playing his game. It's good to see. It's exciting times to be an Arsenal fan. I have to say that because Nuno Tavares adding goals to his game and Kieran Tierney adding goals to his game, it's exciting. You're getting goals from almost all areas of the pitch now.
The important thing.
Yes.
And that's the important thing is that there's been too many situations in the past where we've relied on Aubameyangs, Lacazette's. Last season, Pepe chipped in. He was top 3 goal scorers for Arsenal. And when those players weren't playing well or they weren't scoring goals, we weren't getting goals from midfield. We weren't getting goals from out wide. And we certainly weren't getting goals from our defenders. Gabriel's added goals to his game as well, more than normal. So, as you rightly said, really, really exciting times. And Tavares should be looking up at Kieran Tierney as a bit of a role model on someone he can learn from. We have to appreciate he's still a very raw talent, new to the Premier League. So, as you rightly said, if he can take a leaf out of KT's book, then we're absolutely laughing with competition down that left-hand side. Coming to you finally, John, mate, any other sort of positives to take away from Kieran Tierney's performance today, or have they been pretty much covered?
Pretty much everything was said. Like his finish was a striker's finish, a striker on form's finish. It was. And as you said about him whipping in the crosses, he done that last season, and there was a lot of chances that Aubameyang missed or Lacazette missed. But he's everything a striker wants when it comes to whipping in the ball. And him and Martinelli can build up a partnership on that side for years to come. They'll link up perfectly. So Tierney, he gives everything every game. And as I said, for me, if he stays injury free, he should be captain without a doubt. With all the trophies he's won, he's played for a massive club. He should be captain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get into the final picture of today's stream, get your comments down below now on who you think it is. I'll give you a clue. You should have been paying attention in the last slide, because you would have seen where this particular player was in his average positioning through the 90 minutes. It's either going to be Martin Odegaard or Lacazette. It's one of those two players, both of which played very, very well today. We're going to speak about both, even though there's only one player left on screen to talk about. Coming to you first, Neil. Who is it?
Martin Odegaard.
Tony?
Yeah, it's Martin Odegaard, and the reason that I'm sort of seeing it and going in that direction is because of the key passes. I know 100% he did make two of the very first key passes when we scored, so that's kind of why I'm leaning in that direction.
And John?
Yeah, the key passes gave it away. It's Odegaard. He set up Saka. He gave in. Yeah, it's Odegaard.
It is Martin Odegaard.
Yeah.
Well done indeed. Behind that question mark, it should say 2 assists.
Yeah,
this
brilliant.
guy, his goal contributions for Arsenal at the moment is absolutely phenomenal. And for anyone who criticised Arsenal bringing him back in the summer, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. There's a reason why Arsenal brought him back in the summer over James Maddison. So coming to you first, Neil, what did you make of Martin Odegaard's performance today?
Listen, I have not been as kind to Martin Odegaard as many. I said to you guys earlier in the chat today, I was like, this guy is turning into being our midfield engine. Some of the movements that even when he's collecting the ball from and moving it upfield, evidence right here in this heat map that you have here. You take this heat map, you put it over that heat map that you had from the statistics. You could see that, okay, that dark orange from that first heat map you had is evidence to show that he's taking that ball from there and moving it forward with the likes of Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka. Hence the reason for the three key passes and the 87 with the assists of 2 and everything. So he's starting to turn me over. I want to see more from him.
Yes.
I'm not going to be like, oh my God, this is the midfielder that we've always wanted. I'm not going to be that person, but I'm happy to see how he's grown since coming back to Arsenal and being given these games. He's really growing in confidence, really, really growing in confidence.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's no harm in getting excited in his performance now, but in terms of the team that we're looking to build, in terms of where we want to be in a couple of years, what we want to see from Martin Odegaard as a player that's just turned 23 is we want to see that long-term consistency in top performances. And when we can see that, we can elevate our level of excitement even more than it already is. Because yesterday was a great performance. The last 4 or 5 games have been great performances, but there have been times where he has gone missing. So if he can eradicate that from his game, then we've got a top player on our hands. Tony, coming to you next, mate. What did you make of Odegaard's performance today?
Yeah, again, absolutely spectacular. And it's kind of like how I've mentioned with other players like Lacazette. It's not necessarily your goal-scoring capability, but what you can also bring to the rest of the squad. And what he's brought in has been fantastic in terms of the assists, the key passing, what he can do. And not only that, but yes, he can actually also score from the mid, which is fantastic. We haven't had that in quite a while.
Very well.
Again, it's going to be a consistency thing where I think his consistency, yes, it's going to improve given the time and the experience that he's going to continue to gain at Arsenal and at the Premier League.
And John, what did you make of his performance today?
He was my man of the match today. I thought he dominated the game when he had the ball. He was always looking forward, interchanging, passing, moving. He wasn't just passing it and standing there. He was passing it and then almost reading where the next pass was going to go to so he could get onto it. I had doubts when we signed him. I had doubts. I didn't really want him back from what I seen. But what I want players to do is prove me wrong. I'm not one of these that say, oh, look, I got it right. He's crap, or I got it right. He's good. If I criticize a player, it's because I want them to then prove me wrong the following week. And recently, he's kept my mouth shut. And I want him to keep building that consistency up because he's 23 and he can be world class. We all know he has the ability. But again, I'll take it game by game with him. Well, with all of the lads.
Yeah, and I think like we've said, isn't it? We have to kind of look at where we are at the end of the season. One player isn't judged on an entire season based on 5-6 performances. After he's played 30 plus games for Arsenal, come the end of the season, we'll reflect on what that season for him as an individual and how he's impacted Arsenal at that particular point. But at the moment, he seems moving in the right direction, which is good. Coming to you next, Tony. I think it's only right that we give Lacazette a bit of a shout out today. Another top performance from the lad. Unlucky not to make my top 3 players. But since Aubameyang has been dropped, whether or not it's him being given the armband or him being given a run of games, he really is starting to show his importance to this Arsenal side. And he's the glue at the moment, especially with these youngsters. What did you make of his performance today?
Yeah, again, I'm actually extremely happy that he did get the penalty and that he did get a goal, because for me, a goal is a goal, irregardless. And he's been putting forth the work, he's been putting forth the effort into this, and you could see it game in and game out. With Aubameyang's, his absence right now, I think Lacazette has really taken, the role of the captaincy to a much higher and a much more mature level, which is, I think, why he's capable of succeeding where Aubameyang was, sort of failing. That said, again, the other reason that I also enjoy his performances are, again, it's what he's bringing to the rest of the squad. Besides the experience, is also his work rate, and he does bring quite a bit, especially in the term of he's a very unselfish player, which is one of the things that I love so much about him. If he knows that he can go ahead and pass that ball to one of the younger players or to any other player that's going to be in a good position to score, he will do it gladly, and he'll do it for the squad.
Absolutely huge for the Arsenal at the moment, and it makes you wonder what we're going to do come the end of the season if he does leave, in terms of the player that steps in his shoes, whether it's someone already at the club or someone that we decide to bring in. Neil, what did you make of his performance today?
Listen, man, this is not just based on today's performance, but the performances Lacazette has put in the past as well. He has been not scoring, but at the same time, he's been using his ability to apply pressure and win the ball and hold the ball up. Like, that's his game.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to see goals from him. That's his reason for being here. But at the same time, like, he has probably realized that, my role in this team now is more than just being a goal scorer, and that's the captain. And the captain has to make these types of decisions where you have to let these young guys go forward and build confidence. And these attacking players that we have, them being so young, scoring goals is just gonna build their confidence to know that they can do this. So if we do lose him come the summer, then I'm looking at, we need to find a striker that is a bit of him and Aubameyang.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because some of the crosses that KT put in today, you would say, oh man, that would be perfect for Aubameyang, because he's that type of player. And then, you have the side of Lacazette's game that he could shoot a rocket from outside the 18, or he could hold the ball up. This type of complete type striker. And one name's come to mind, and that's the counterpart to Martin Odegaard. So if the football gods could shine on us, Borussia Dortmund isn't doing so many great things. So it might be a lateral move for him. So we'll see. Only time will tell.
Fingers crossed. We'll keep those fingers crossed. You would like to think that Arsenal have planned around both eventuality, in the sense that if Lacazette stays, great, this is what will happen. If he doesn't, this is also then the plan in terms of who we sign, who we go for, so on and so forth. So hopefully you'd imagine a club like Arsenal have got both routes planned out already. Coming to you finally then, John, what were your thoughts on Lacazette's performance today, mate?
I thought he was brilliant again. He deserved a goal. What worried me was I didn't think he was going to get that goal in the first half. I think Saka put in a delicious cross and he headed it, but he mistimed the header and put it wide. And I thought then he's not going to get his goal again after missing the penalty then against West Ham, I think. But again, he's adapting he knows he's getting on. And he knows he has to adapt style to work in this team. Some players aren't happy to do that. We've seen that over the years with certain players, but he's happy to adapt to this role, to drop deep, be unselfish. Not a lot of strikers again will do that because they want to put the ball in the back of the net. But he seems more happy when Saka or Smith Rowe score than when he scores himself, because he knows they're the future of this club.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said indeed. And I'm assuming that you're sticking with your man of the match, Martin Odegaard?
Yeah.
Who is yours, Neil?
It's so hard.
Some brilliant performances today.
Yeah.
It's a tough. Saka with 2 goals, Odegaard with 2 assists.
I'll give it to Saka, man. I'll give it to
Tony?
Saka.
Jesus. Oh, I didn't want you to ask me that question, man. That's a tough one.
I'm sorry. Please don't hate me.
No, but and I'm just saying this right now, not so much in terms of goals, assists, or anything else like that, but I'm gonna actually have to give it to Lacazette just because of how he has stepped up in Aubameyang's, in his absence. And how he's really just sort of leading the youngsters. He's really showing them what I would hope is going to be the Arsenal way. So for me, that's why I'm going to have to give it to him for this match.
Well said. Well, I always played midfield back in my playing days, and I'm slowly becoming a little bit of a Martin Odegaard fanboy. So I'm going to give it to Martin Odegaard myself. Funnily enough,
what would you give Mikel?
Sorry?
What would you give the manager for today, based on today, starting 11 substitutions?
Great question. Great
do you know what?
question.
You've got to give him somewhere between an 8 and a 9 out of 10. And the only reason why I'm not giving him a 10 out of 10 is because in and amongst all of these amazing results that we're having, he's implemented a very similar type of system with the same group of players against teams like Liverpool, Man United, not so much Man City because it was a completely different side, and we can maybe touch on that when we play them in a couple of weeks. But when we have played against some of the tougher sides with the same system and same players, it hasn't worked out. They've been really hard games to watch. So that's why I would give him somewhere. I'm going to say 8.5.
Yeah, I agree.
7.8.
Yeah.
So, but it's promising. We're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
We'll have to wait and see what happens against Manchester City, I suppose, in a few weeks. So I think that is going to about wrap things up. As I've just mentioned, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to host a show now for the Wolves game because it's been postponed due to a combination of injuries and COVID, which is a bit of a shame, really, because I didn't think injuries were part of the criteria.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the Leeds game should have been called off with Arsenal.
The Brentford game at the start of the season should have been called off, but that's a day for another story.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's, who are making these calls? Because, like you said, there's the Brentford game, and then I'm obviously not a Leeds fan, but as a Leeds fan, surely when you hear in the news that the Arsenal game against Wolves is being called off because of a combination of injuries and COVID, you've got to be fuming.
Absolutely.
They've let 11 goals into Arsenal and Man City because of injuries.
And they're fighting to stay up. Yeah, exactly. They're fighting to stay up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So not a nice situation.
It's not helping their cause. No.
No. So the next time we'll be back, hopefully with all of today's guests, plus maybe Keith if he's available. I do appreciate we've all got really busy lives outside of YouTube with work and family. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you sparing some time this evening, not only with myself, but with our lovely viewers and subscribers. Thank you all very much for coming along. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you're new around here. But before we do sign off for the evening, John, where can they find you, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter at JohnJordan2021. In the new year, I'll have a channel up and going fully, hopefully. For everyone in the chat or watching on playback, I hope you had a great Christmas. I hope you didn't get too drunk. And I'm wishing you all hopefully a better new year to you and your families.
Well said, John. And we are really looking forward to you launching your channel in the new year. John will still continue to feature on the channel. I'm sure some of us will feature on his channel.
Yeah, I have a lifetime contract with the boys here.
So we'll make sure that we get all of his details down in some of the upcoming shows so that you can go and subscribe to his channel as and when it launches. Tony, my friend, thank you for joining me once again. Where can the people find you?
Thank you for having me again with my weirdness and my strangeness.
Don't be daft.
No, you can find me at Stalking the Shadows on Twitter at Judge Red the Law or Alatrice Antonio. I do have a very, very unhealthy addiction to Arsenal shirts. So if you happen to have any, don't show them to me because I might go ahead and take them.
He might throw a checkbook at you if you do. So be careful. Thank you very much for coming on once again, Tony. And we'll obviously 100% have you again in the future. And last but by no means least, we've got Neil from Cannon FC, mate. Where can the boys find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Cannon FC on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter as well, at Neil Dwarka or Cannon FC. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Neil Dwarka, the Realtor. Listen, I'm hopeful that everyone had a very happy and safe Christmas. All the subscribers, all the fans to the page. Just be safe. This is a tricky time. Funny enough, lost 2 people due to COVID recently on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So, respect to those families. My thoughts and prayers out to those and to all people who lost, a family member or friend due to COVID.
Yeah. Well said, Neil, mate. I couldn't have said that better myself. And I'm really sorry to hear the news you've just mentioned as well. As Neil said, everyone stay safe. I hope everyone has had a lovely Christmas. And I hope everyone, us included, can have an even better 2022. You never know. Arsenal might win a trophy.
Or 2.
You never know. We never know. So keep your fingers crossed. But thank you all very much for joining me this evening. But for now, we are out.